So in the previous classes, we have understood about classes and objects and methods and so on. So today's class, we will focus on inheritance concept, which is one of the most popular object-oriented programming concept. Inheritance, okay? So let us see what is inheritance and how we can achieve inheritance in TypeScript. So when you compare to JavaScript or when you compare to Java, inheritance in TypeScript and JavaScript little bit different. Almost 99% of the concept is exactly the same. The objective of inheritance is exactly the same, but the way of implementation is a little bit different. Okay. So along with the inheritance, we will also learn method overriding concept, which is also related to inheritance concept, and also we'll discuss about how to use super keyword access modifiers. So all these concepts are related to inheritance. Okay, so first of all, let us see what is inheritance and how we can implement in TypeScript. So let's go and create a new project, new folder, day 15. Just a second. Okay, so I'm creating a new file. Let's call it as inheritance.ts. Okay, so as per the definition, what is an inheritance? In other programming languages, also we have the same concept. Inheritance is nothing but whatever the variables or methods we created in one class, we can reuse them in another class, or we can extend the class into another class. Like it is basically a parent and child relationship. So whatever things are belongs to parent, they also belongs to the child. So similarly, inheritance concept basically focus on the reusability concept. So whatever the methods or variables we created in the parent class, and we can acquire them into child class, or we can reuse them into child class. So we no need to again rewrite the same methods, no need to rewrite the same properties in the child class, which is simply called as a inheritance. Now look at the definition of inheritance. A class can reuse the properties and methods of another class. So let us say in the parent class, let's say I created one class called a parent. Any class, let's say class A. Now this class contains certain number of properties and a certain number of methods. Now I created another class, let's say B, and the B is also having their own properties and their own methods. But now I want to get the properties and methods from the parent class. I want to get the properties and from the parent class itself, whatever properties methods we created in the parent class, I want to get them into B also. I want to use same properties and methods into B class. So then I no need to write the again same properties and methods into B class. Simply we can extend A into B. So when I say B extends A, then what will happen? Whatever the properties and methods are defined in class A also belongs to class B. So in this context, A is called as a parent class, B is called as a child class. So this is called as parent class, and which is also called as a base class, also called as a super class. There are multiple names are there. And whichever class which is extended from the parent class means what? B contains its own properties and methods. Apart from that, it is acquired everything from parent class, which is A. So the B is called child class. B is called child class, which is also called as subclass. These are all terminologies, and which is also called as derived class. Derived class. Okay. You can call them as a parent class and child class, or base class or derived class, or super class or subclass. Okay. These are the different keywords. So most of the times I'll try to use parent class and child class. Okay. So this is simple concept. A is a class can reuse the properties and methods from another class. A class can reuse the properties and method from another class. Inheritance is a mechanism where one class, which is our child class, can inherit the properties and methods from another class, which is a parent class. Inheritance allows you to reuse the functionality of an existing class without rewriting it. Means what? Whatever the parent class, whatever properties, methods are nothing but what? Methods will implement some logic or it has some functionality. The same thing we can reuse in child class, which is called inheritance. Okay, this is one of the most important object-oriented feature or object-oriented concept. Okay, so now let us implement this concept in TypeScript. So first of all, we need to create a new class. Let us call it as a parent class. Okay, so I'm creating a new class. I'll name it as a car. So in this class, I will define some of the properties. Let's say car name. For that, I'm taking one property or variable name. We should not say this is a variable actually in TypeScript and JavaScript, which we call as a property is a right term to use. Okay, during interview or somewhere, if you're trying to use the terminology, so try to use properly. Because if you already know some other programming languages, so immediately you will consider this as a variables. But in Java, Python, we call them as a variables. But here in TypeScript and JavaScript, we call them as a properties itself. Okay, because if it's a variables, definitely we use either let or const keywords. But here we will not use any such type of keywords. So this is key and value pair. So it is a string type. Name, to store the name of the car, I created one property called name, and the color also I'm just taking another property called as a string, and another property I'm taking model, which is also string. So now I'm taking three properties of the car name, color, and model. And to assign the data into these properties, I can create a constructor, right? Constructor, what the constructor will do? Constructor will assign the data into the properties. Let me create a new constructor. So how to create a constructor? Using constructor name, constructor, and let us pass some parameters to the constructor. So first name. Okay, so name, which is again string, comma, color, this is also string, comma, model, this is also string. So now I'm taking three arguments, and again I'm reassigning these values to the properties. So again, if I look at here, I'm using same names. These are the local properties, these are the class properties. So I'm using the same name. So how we can differentiate this? The class level properties names and parameters, how we can differentiate them using this keyword. Okay, this dot name equal to name, this dot color equal to color, and this dot model equal to model. Okay, now I have created a simple constructor. So the car is a class which contains certain properties, and along with the constructor which will assign the data to the variables. So apart from that, I will also create some more methods in the same class. Let's say start. This is a one method I will create. And inside this, I'm just printing something. Let's say car started. And also I will create few more methods. Let's say stop. And here say console dot log of car stopped. Okay, now I have created one single constructor and also created two more methods. And along with these methods, I will create another method which will display the data of the car, display the properties of the car. So for that, I'm creating one more method called display information. Display information. This is also a method. These are all named functions or named methods. Display information, console.log of. And here I'll try to print all the data of the car. So in the single line, by using backtick operator, I will try to print everything. So name, I'm extracting name by using this dot name, color, and then model. Okay, so this is just for printing purpose. When I call display my information method, this will print all the details, name, color, and model of the car. So this is the implementation of the car class. So the car is a class which contains three properties, one single constructor which will assign the data into the properties, and then 3 more methods additionally we created. Okay, so only one method will display the properties information and two or other method will just display the car started and stopped. So this is the implementation of the car class. Now, with this class, I'll create another class. I will make it as a child class of the car. So let us call this car as a parent class. Okay. Now, how to create a child class? So to create a class, I will create another class called, let's say, class Honda. Okay. And this is an independent class. As of now, there is no relationship. So this is a different class and car is a different class. Now in the Honda class also, I will define some of the attributes and methods and constructors. Let's say in Honda class, I will have only one attribute called year of manufacture. Let's say year, which is number. Only one property I have. And to assign this property, I will create one constructor. I'll create one constructor. So what this constructor will do, this constructor will take one single parameter, which is called year, and the type is what? Number. And inside this dot year equal to year. So assign the data into the constructor. Okay, and again, the Honda is also having one property and one constructor, and also I will create a few more methods in the Honda class. Let's say start method. So here I will simply say console.log Honda started. Okay, Honda started. Okay, and to print this here, I will create another method. Let's say year of manufacturing, YOM. And inside this, I will say console.log off and backlit operator. Inside this, I'll say name. Inside this, I'll say year of manufacture. Okay, dollar sign and curly brace. Here we can specify this attribute. Okay, so how we can access? Again, using this keyword able to, we can access. That's it. Okay. So now if I look at these two classes, there is no relation between these two. So car is an independent class and then Honda is another class. And car is having their own attributes, constructor and methods. Also Honda class is also having their own attribute and their own constructor, their own methods. There is no relation between these two as of now. So now to make the Honda is a child class, what I can do, suppose the Honda doesn't have name and color model, right? So these are the three attribute doesn't have this in Honda class, but they are already created inside another class. So I want to get them into Honda class. Similarly, there is no display information method in the Honda class. And there is no constructor created in the Honda class. Whatever constructor we have implemented here, that's not there in the Honda class. It is having their own constructor. So there are certain things which we need to acquire from the parent class or another class. So to do that, we can make Honda is a child class. So how we can make it happen? Using extends keyword. Extends, then specify the parent class car. Now, as soon as you say Honda extends car, then Honda is becomes a child class. Honda is becomes a child class. Okay, so now car becomes a parent class. Car becomes the parent class. Until unless you use this extends keyword, both are two different classes. There is no relation. But as soon as you extended parent class into child class, now there is a parent and child relationship. Okay. Now Honda contains everything from the car. So whatever the attributes are created, constructor is created, methods, everything also belongs to Honda because this is a child class acquired everything from the parent class. Okay. Now just observe. If I look at these two classes, there is a relationship. So whatever is there in the car class, everything is there in Honda class also. But when you say extend, when I inherit parent class into child class, so there are some conflicts here or something called certain things will be overridden. So if I look at this, in the parent class, we have three attributes: name, color, and model. But in the child class, we have only one attribute. So there is no conflict here. There is no overridden concept. Everything is fine. And if I look at here, in the parent class, we have a constructor. Even in the child class also, we have a constructor. So this is a conflict. So whatever constructor we have in the parent class, that is also belongs to the child class. Then how we can avoid this conflict? Both classes are having constructor. So now what we need to do, we need to have one constructor which will able to handle all properties, which will able to assign the data into all the properties. So how we can modify this constructor? Simple. The constructor, whatever we have taken here. So we are taking the manufacturing year, right? So this year. Along with that, whatever the constructor, above constructor, parent constructor is expecting, the same values we have to capture from the child class constructor like this. Okay. And so the child class constructor is expecting all the parameters, which includes parent class properties and child class properties. Now, inside this constructor, whatever year we are passing here, that anyway we are assigning to the year. But what about the rest of the parameters? We need to pass these rest of the parameters to the parent class constructor. Okay, we need to pass the rest of the parameters to the parent class constructor. So one parameter is required to the child class constructor, and we have assigned that, but rest of three parameters we need to pass to the parent class constructor. So how it is possible? We have to use something called super keyword. Super is always trying to invoke the parent class constructor. So super of, here we need to pass the name, we have to pass, and the color we have to pass, and then model also we need to pass. So whatever parameters are taken by the parent class constructor, we have to pass those parameters to the parent class constructor, and other parameter, whatever additionally we created inside the child class, we will directly assign that into the child class constructor. So this is the procedure, very important. Okay. So if you have two constructors in the parent class and child class, what we need to do in the child class constructor, whatever additional attribute we created, we will assign that directly, and rest of the attributes or rest of the parameters we have to pass to the parent class constructor. Okay. And how to invoke the parent class constructor? Using super and pass the parameters. Now what will happen? Now the super method will invoke the parent class constructor, and whatever the data we are passing here will be assigned to this variables. Okay. So this is how we need to use this super method. We have to use by passing the parameter. So this is the procedure we follow in TypeScript and JavaScript. Okay. So now the constructor problem is resolved. Now another thing. So what about the methods? So in the parent class, we have a start and stop methods. Even in the child class also, we have a stop and we have a start method. We don't have a stop method. Okay. We have a start method. So then what will happen in that case? Parent class also having one start method. We get everything from the parent class to child class. Again, child class is also having the same method, start method, but implementation is different. So name of the method, parameters, everything is same, but the implementation is different. So this is called method overriding concept. So if I create a one method in parent class, if you recreate the same method again in the child class without changing the name, parameters, return type, the signatures would be exactly the same. Okay, but the implementation will be different. So whatever method we created in the parent class, if I recreate same method without changing the signature, we call it as a method overriding concept. That is also belongs to inheritance concept. So method overriding is nothing but what? A subclass or a child class, subclass or a child class can provide a specific implementation of a method that is already defined in the superclass. And what are the condition? The method must have the same name, parent class and child class. The method should have the same name, same return type, and same number of parameters. So name should be matched, return type should be matched, parameters should be matched. In that case, which is called as a overriding concept. So this is purely related to inheritance. So if you want to override a methods, we should have at least one parent class and one child class. Okay. So now the start we already created in the parent class, and again we recreated in the child class just by changing the implementation, which is called overriding concept, which is called as a method overriding concept. So now I'm creating this. This is method overriding. Okay. So this is overridden method, and YOM is a new method which is belongs to Honda. Now all the conflicts are resolved. So when I inherit the parent class into child class, the constructor, whatever we created in the child class, should be invoked the parent class constructor. So whatever parameters are required for the parent class constructor, we have to pass them using super keyword, and rest of the parameter we can assign. And sometimes method overriding also will happen. Sometimes suppose in the parent class, the method is there, but in the child don't like that implementation. So then what he will do? He will re-implement that method. Simple example, let's say there is a house constructed by parents. After parents are gone, the construction become very, very old. So then what the child will do? Child will renovate the construction, right? So similarly, whatever implementation is there in the parent class, if the child class doesn't like that implementation, the child can recreate the same method just by changing the body of the method. Signature is same. Signature we should not change. Only body we should change. That is called overriding concept. Overriding concept, method overriding concept. Okay. Now, perfectly fine. And another thing. So we are calling the parent class constructor by passing 3 parameters to the parent class constructor, and one more parameter we are assigning here. What is that? Year of manufacturing is additional parameter. Year of manufacturing is a additional parameter. So to print that year of the manufacturing, I will also create another method here. So here we created display information. Here we created YOM, right? So in the YOM, YOM is a overridden method or not? YOM is not a overridden method. It's a different method. It is a different method. But here we are just printing only year. But can we print other details of the car? Name, color, model, and so on. Can we display other details of the car in YOM? Obviously. Why? Why we can access other variables? Because whenever you extend the parent class, not only this year, all the attributes or properties also belongs to the Honda. Just like year, all other attributes also belongs to the Honda itself, because it extended everything from the car. So when I print this year, along with this year, I can also print the data of other variables. So we can just print this directly here. Along with the year also I want to print. So what I can do here, I can see year of manufacturing, dollar, and simply can say this dot year. Okay. So this is how we need to. So order is same important. Okay. Same order is important. Okay. So the question is, we pass all parameters of the parent class in subclass using super. Then why again we pass same under subclass constructor? So that we need to pass. Okay. Because whenever you create an object of the Honda car, for example, so one constructor will come from the car, another constructor is already there in Honda. So there are two constructors will be conflict. There will be conflict between two constructors. Okay. So that is the reason what we need to do from the child class constructor. Anyway, there is a constructor in the class, car class. So from the child class constructor, whatever variables are required, parameters are required for the parent class constructor, we will pass it actually. And rest of the parameters we can assign directly using this keyword. So to avoid conflict between two constructors, we will invoke the parent class constructor by passing required variables. So we will take the parameters directly in the child class constructor and we will pass them into parent class constructor. So especially when you apply inheritance concept, so parent class and the child class. So when I create an object, for which class you will create an object, parent class or child class? Which one is the latest? Let's say parent class is the old version, child class is the latest version. So which one we will use normally? Child class. So obviously we will create an object for the child class. So when I create an object for the child class, there will be conflict because the child class itself is having one constructor and another constructor come from the parent class. So when the constructor will be invoked at the time of object creation, right? So when I create an object for Honda class, by default, which constructor will be executed? Child class constructor itself is executed. Will it execute parent class constructor? No. But the parent class constructor required the parameters. So that is the reason when I create an object for a Honda class or child class constructor will automatically invoked. At the same time, internally, we are trying to invoke the parent class constructor also because we need parameters in the parent class constructor also. So that is the reason. Okay, so what if both classes have constructor have same parameters? Even though if you have a same parameters, what does that mean? If you have a same parameters, that is a overriding. If you have a same parameters, again in the child class constructor, you will take the parameters. Okay, and then again you need to pass them into parent class constructor. So there is no question of having same constructor, same parameters. Why? Because that will be duplication actually. That will throw an error. So constructor should not have the same parameters. That's not the valid scenario, first of all. Okay. So this is a problem. Okay, so for everything is understood. So parent class we created and the child class is also we created. Now in the parent class, we have a display information, which will display the 3 details of the parent class. And the child class is another method called YOM. And this is also display all the details of the car along with the year. But here in the parent class, this won't print year. It will just display the information. Okay, so now you tell me, if I create an object of the car class, we can access all 3 properties. Name, color, model we can access. This will automatically call the constructor and we can access all the methods, display information. So when I create an object of the car class, can we access year of manufacturing? No, through that object, we cannot access year of manufacturing because year of manufacturing additionally added in the child class. So when I create an object of the child class, we can access everything from the parent class along with year of manufacturing also we can access. This is the additional functionality of child class. Okay. Now, so this is one child class which we created for the parent class. Now let us create another child class. We can create n number of child classes for single parent class. Now let me take the same car class. I will create another child class, just like a Honda class. I will create another class, another child class. Observe this carefully. This is child class. I'm giving as a name as a Honda. Now I'll create another child class. And this is a, let's say, Maruti. Okay. This is another child class of same parent class, car class. Just observe. Class Maruti extends car. For Honda and Maruti, both are same child class of the same parent class. Now the Maruti is also having year, one property, which is a number. Same, whatever is there for Honda, same thing is there for Maruti also. But these are 2 different classes. So here it will also take name, color and model. And we are passing to the parent class constructor. This dot here is same. And we is also having start method. And here instead of Honda, I'll say Maruti. Same method, start method is there. And year of manufacturing method is also there. start method, and year of manufacturing is also there. Same thing, whatever implementation we have done in the Honda class, same thing is there for Maruti class also, but this is a different class. So now Honda and Maruti. So these two are the child classes of same parent class, which is car. Okay. Now let us try to use these classes, and we'll try to create multiple objects and try to handle this. So all classes are created and we establish the relation. So now we'll see how to use those classes one by one. First, let us start with the Hyundai object. Let's create uh, Honda object. Honda object. So we created Honda class, right? So let's create an object of Honda. So how to create an object for Honda class? Honda is my class name, right? So let create a variable, let's say Honda, lowercase characters, equal to new Honda. Okay. Now at the time of creating an object, the constructor will be invoked. Now you can see new Honda. So how many parameters we need to pass in the Honda constructor? Totally how many parameters? 4 parameters we need to pass. Honda constructor. Name we have to pass, color we have to pass, model and year. 4 parameters we need to pass. So at the time of object creation, the constructor will automatically invoked. So we need to pass multiple parameters. Let's say I'm passing the car brand, and then color, and then model. Let's say Honda City, some model, and then year of manufacturing, as say 2024, something like this. So 4 parameters I'm passing. So as soon as you created an object and invoke the constructor, and constructor will take 4 parameters. Now if I go back again, the 4 parameters are captured here. And among the 4 parameters, 3 parameters will be automatically sent to the parent class constructor. And year will be assigned to the current property, which is belongs to Honda class. Right. So now we Honda class, all the variables are properly assigned. Now if I look at this, console.log of Honda is my object, Honda dot name. Can we access? From the object, can we access a property? Yes or no? So whatever properties which we created, like all the properties, how many properties are there in the Honda class? Now tell me, how many total number of properties are there in Honda class? Totally 4 properties. Honda itself is having 1 property, and another 3 properties come from the car. Okay. So now if I try to print them individually, so name is actually belongs to parent class, but we are accessing this from the child class object. Possible or not? Possible. Similarly, I will try to access name. I am able to access color. I am able to access and also I'm able to access model. I'm able to access. Actually, these 3 things come from which class? Parent class, but still we are able to access from the child class object. Okay. And similarly, console.log of and Honda dot, what is the additional attribute we created in the parent child class? Year. So that also we can access. Okay. So even though we created an object for the child class, still we are able to access everything from the parent class properties. Okay. So let me execute this code. So tsx day 15 slash inheritance.tx. Yeah, now we can see we got all the data for 3 variables, name, color, and model, and also year of manufacturing we have printed. So by creating an object of the child class, we are able to access from the parent class also. Whatever the attributes, properties we created in the parent class, we are able to access them also. Okay. Now, another thing. By using same Honda class object, I'm calling a start method. Listen carefully. So from the Honda class object, I'm calling start method. Okay. Now if I go back to the Honda class. When I call start method from the Honda class, by default, the start method is there. But there is another start method from the parent class also, right? Now you tell me which method will execute from the parent class or the child class? Which method will be executed from the parent class or child class? By default, whichever the new method overridden will be executed by default. Okay, start method will be executed from the child class itself because this method is already overridden from the parent class itself. So whenever you create an object of child class, by default, overridden method will be called because this is the latest implementation. So as soon as overridden, the old method is gone. So when I create a start method, even though we have a start method in the parent class, still it will able to call the child class object. So this will invoke called child class method, which is overridden method will be called. This is the default behavior. Now when I execute this, you can see Honda started. So this is a output of this method. Honda.start. Honda.start. Okay. Now let us do a few more things. Now you tell me, by using this Honda object, we have called overridden method start. Okay, that is fine. Can we call this method in the parent class? Display information is there. So can we call that method? Yes, obviously, because the display information method is also belongs to the child class. So display information method will actually belongs to parent class, but still we're able to call that method using child class object. So now come down. So Honda dot display information. Perfect. We can call. So execute the code. So we are trying to access everything from the parent class from the child class object. So we are able to call this. So this is the output we are getting. So basically what it is called, it is actually invoking from the parent class. Parent class. Okay, so when the method is overridden, the latest implementation will be called, which is from the child class object, child class. And if there is no overridden method, obviously it will come from the parent class itself, because the parent class attributes, parent class properties, parent class methods also belongs to child class. Okay. Now, similarly, I say Honda dot start. Start we already called. Honda dot stop. So stop method is belongs to which class? Do we have a stop method in Honda class? No, we don't have. Which is also come from the parent class. So stop is there. So this will also call the parent class. So when I execute this, car got stopped. Okay. So this is also come from the parent class itself. So start is a overridden method, so called from the child class itself, and rest of the two methods called from the parent class. So these methods are not there in the Honda class, but still it is trying to execute from the parent class. Okay. Now Honda dot year of manufacture. And from which class this YOM is belongs to? Honda class itself. So Honda class itself, we have this YOM. So we can happily call this. So when I execute this, you will get the output. So what YOM is displayed here, it should display this output. Same thing, it is displayed. So this is the output of the YOM. And this is again called from what? Child class itself. So what we need to understand here, by creating an object of the child class, we will able to access everything from the child class as well as from the parent class. All the methods, all the properties we're able to access from the child class as well as parent class. Okay. Now, similarly, let us create an object for Maruti class. Now I have created another class called Maruti, which is also come from the same parent class. So how we can call parent class start method using Honda class object. Okay, so this is one limitation which we have in TypeScript actually. So by using super keyword, we can invoke the parent class constructor. Similarly, by using super keyword, we can also invoke the parent class method. So that is possible, but we cannot invoke the parent class variable. So that I will come to, I'll explain that. Hold on. Okay. So here, super keyword we already used in the inside the constructor. So that is automatically invoke the parent class constructor. So we don't have any problem in that. But if I look at this start method, when I call the start method, which is overridden method actually, which is overridden method, by default, it is invoking the child method, child class method. There is no doubt in that. So by default, whichever method is overridden, that method is called. Okay, there is no question of it. But still, I want to invoke the parent class method. But the implementation is different, right? If I look at the child class start method, here Honda started is there. But if I look at the parent class method, car started is there. By default, which method is calling? Child class method is calling. But I want to invoke the parent class method. I want to invoke the parent class method. Then how it is possible? So can we invoke that? So can we invoke the parent class method? It is possible. Okay, so to invoke the parent class method also, we use super keyword. We use super keyword. Then how it is possible? I will show you in the next class. Okay, so here Maruti we created, right? So in this class, I will show you that option. Okay, now let's go on to the next one. Create Maruti object. So create a Maruti class object. So let us look at this. Now in the Maruti class, we have again year of manufacturing, one constructor, and internally we call the parent class constructor. This is the overridden method. Same thing, overridden method and year of manufacturing. Everything is same. So let's create an object of Maruti class. Let Maruti, let's Maruti equal to new Maruti. So we need to, how many parameters are required? 4 parameters we need to pass again, which is required for child class constructor and parent class constructor. So I say brand name, I say Maruti, and color, let's say blue, and let's say a model name. Third parameter is a model name. I say Suzuki, and year of manufacture, let's say 2023. So 4 parameter we have passed. 1, 2, 3, and 4 parameters. Now by using this Maruti, I'm trying to access few things. Maruti dot start. So in the Maruti, we have a start method, right? So or no, we don't have a start method in the Maruti. Now from where it will get? From the parent class itself. So can we access like this? So Maruti doesn't have a start method. So obviously from where the start method will execute? From the parent class. From the parent class. So when I execute this, you will get car Maruti started. You can just look at here. Maruti dot start method I'm calling. See method overriding. See Maruti, we have this method actually. Start method is there. In the Maruti, we have a start method, but this is again overridden method. So by default, it is called overridden method itself. By default, it is called overridden method. So we got a Maruti started. So this is again from child class itself. Maruti did start. Another thing. Maruti dot display information. Can you access this? Can we access display information from the Maruti? Yes, because display information is belongs to the parent class, but still we can access from the Maruti itself. So now we can see this is the information is got displayed of Maruti class. Okay, display information we got. Similarly, Maruti dot stop. Maruti dot stop. So do you have a stop method in the Maruti? Stop. We don't have stop method. But from where it will invoke? From the parent class it will invoke. So this will return the, it will execute the parent class implementation. Parent class. So car is got stopped. This is an output of the stop. And similarly, I say Maruti dot year of manufacturing. So do you have IOM in the Maruti? Yes. And we don't have this in the parent class. So obviously the child class method will be executed. So when I execute this, perfect. So this is also giving all the information along with the year of manufacturing. So when I create an object for the Honda class, we'll able to access everything from the Honda class along with the parent class attributes and methods. Similarly, when I create an object of Maruti class, I will able to access everything from the Maruti class along with the parent class methods. So this is possible. So these two scenarios are clear. So I will talk about super in separate class, how we can invoke the parent class constructor, parent class method, parent class variable. We can use super in multiple ways. Okay, is this example clear? How exactly the parent class and child class works when I create a child class, how we can access everything from the parent class. Okay, now one more scenario I will show you here. In the first example here, we created an object of Honda class and we have stored that in the some reference variable. So the reference variable is what? Normal variable. So we have created an object of the Honda class and storing into the some reference variable. The reference variable type is normal variable. Even in the Maruti case also, we created an object of the Maruti class and storing into normal reference variable. Now what I will do is, I will create an object of, again, take any class, either Maruti or Honda, whatever. I'm taking this particular thing. Okay. And this time, this is an object will be created for Honda class. But here, I will create a normal variable. This is fine. Normal variable, we can hold this object. But the variable type here is a car. Variable type is car. Observe carefully. So I have created an object for what? Child class. And the reference variable, the type of the variable is what? Car. So previously we don't specify the type. For Maruti Honda, we don't specify the type. So by default, whichever object we created, according to the type inference, the type is automatically assigned to the Honda. If I look at this, what is an object we created? Honda type of object. Now, if you look at the type of this Honda, what is the type here? Honda itself. Default type of Honda is what? Honda only. If you want to store a string in a variable, the variable type is what? String by default. If I store a number in a variable, by default, the type of the number is what? Type of the variable is what? Number only. Type inference concept. Similarly, if I store Honda object into the variable type is what? Honda type itself. Similarly, if I come to this particular declaration, what type of object we are storing into variable? Maruti type of object we are storing into variable. So obviously, what is the type of this Maruti? What's the type of this Maruti? Maruti itself. Okay. So whatever type of object we created, the variable is also should have a same type. Okay. Just like a primitive values, how it is applicable, same for objects also it is applicable. If you are trying to store Honda type of object into the variable, that variable should be Honda type. If you want to store Maruti type of object, that variable should be Maruti type. Now I'm storing Honda type of object into car type of variable. Is it possible or not? First of all. So I'm storing Honda type of object into car type of variable. So here it is a child class object, but I am storing into parent class variable. What is car here? Car is a parent class. So the variable is created with the parent class type, but the storing value is Honda type. This is a child object. I'm trying to store the parent class variable. That means what? The reference means the reference variable is pointing to the child class object. It is possible, but at the time of accessing the properties and methods, there are restrictions. So let me tell you what are the restrictions. Here, parent class variable is holding child class object. checked. This is a different case, different scenario. Parent class variable is holding child class object. Then how we can access? What are the things we can access? See, in Honda, by default, Honda object will get everything from the parent class. But there are certain things extra in Honda class which are not there in the parent class. So let us see what are they. So in the parent class, we have a three variables or three properties, constructor and methods. All three methods. So these are all belongs to child class also, Honda class. But what is there only in the Honda class, which is not there in the parent class? This one. Year is not there in the parent class. Also, the year of manufacturing, this method is not there in the parent class. So what is not there in the parent class? Year is not there. YOM method is not there. So one property is not available in the parent class. One method is also not there in the parent class. Okay, remember this point, very important. So now by using this car object, I am trying to access display information. Is it possible or not? See, the object is what? Child class object. I'm storing into parent class variable. And parent class variable, I'm accessing display information. So display information is available in parent class or not? In parent class, it is available. So is it available in the child class or not? In the child class, it is not available. But still, the child class contains the display information because the display information is also belongs to Honda. Both the classes, it is belongs to. So obviously, we can simply access this by using car object. So when I execute, you will see the output like this. So this is accepted. So this is accessible. Why? Because this method is present in the parent class. Also, the same method belongs to the child class also. So that is the reason we are able to access this directly by using car object. So object is Honda, but it's holding into car variable. This is familiar scenario. Now, car.start. Start. So start method is belongs to Honda or not? Honda. We have a start method in Honda. We have a start method is Honda. You can just look at here. So it is already overridden. In Honda, we have a start method. Also in the parent class, also we have a start method. So in both the classes, we have a start method, but in Honda class, which is overridden. Now you tell me which method will be called, Honda class method or car class method. So here the object is Honda class. The variable is a class. Variable is a car type, but I'm calling start method from the car type. So which method will be executed? Parent class method or child class method? Obviously, child class method is got executed. So this is the overridden method. This is the overridden method. Always child class method is got executed. So these two are perfectly fine. Now, this is the new thing. I am trying to access from the car. I make access YOM. Car.YOM. Possible or not? So YOM is belongs to what? Where we have implemented that YOM? Only in the child class. Only in the child class, which is not there in the parent class, which is not there in the parent class. So YOM, when I call this method, it is belongs to only child class, but is not belongs to parent class. So this is not accessible. Why it is not accessible? Property YOM does not exist on the type car. Not accessible. So not accessible. So why it is not accessible? This is belongs to parent class, but not child objects. So based on this, what is our observation? What is the observation? What is the conclusion? With this example, what is the conclusion? If I create an object for the child class and storing into parent class variable, when I create an object of the child class, but storing into parent class variable, in that case, we can access all the methods which are belongs to both object child class as well as parent class. So these two are examples. So these two are the belongs to both child class as well as parent class. In both the classes, these methods are created or defined. So we are able to access. But the method is created in the object, but which is not there in the parent. So those things we cannot access. So why it is not accessible? YOM defined inside the child class, but not there in the parent. So inheritance concept will come from top to bottom, like parent to child, but it will not go to reverse. It will not go to child to parent. But what exactly we are doing here? We are storing child class object into parent. We are trying to do reverse way. We are trying to do reverse way. We are trying to store child class object into parent class. So in that case, we cannot access. We can access which are commonly available in the both parent class and child class like this. But whatever the thing is there in the child class, which is year of manufacturing, which is not there in the parent class, so that we cannot access. Okay, so this is a concept. Parent class variable is able to hold child class object. Parent class variable is able to hold child class object. So this is a special case. It will able to hold it. There is no problem. There is no syntax error it is. And using this object variable, we can access everything from child class and parent class, but they should be common. So those methods should be commonly available in both the classes. But if the method is there in the parent child class, but is not there in the parent class, which we cannot access, So these are the different scenarios normally we face in inheritance concept, parent class and child class concept. Okay, so now I will show you another example where I will show you how we can execute super keyword, how many ways we can use super keyword. As of now, what we have understood about super keyword, to invoke the parent class constructor. So here there is a constructor here. And if you want to invoke the parent class constructor, we use super keyword. So the super keyword is also used for invoke the parent class methods. Okay. So let's see another examples. So child property in the parent class variable, yes, you can hold it if you want. So that is possibility is there. So I'm just showing you all the scenarios. It doesn't mean we will use the same concept in everywhere. Okay. But most of the times we don't prefer that. Most of the times we will create an object for the child class itself, and we will try to create an object for that, and we're able to access it because the child class is the latest version always, which contains the latest implementation. Okay, but when we will go with this particular approach is very simple. Even though you created an object for the child class, but still I want to access only from the parent class. And I want to access the methods and properties which are belongs to either parent class or both the classes. So in that scenario, you go for this. Okay, I want to access the properties or methods which are belongs to both the classes or a parent class. In that case, you will go with the scenario. Because the child class properties or objects, we cannot access. We can access when we can access if the properties or methods should be also present in the parent class, and then only we'll able to access. Otherwise, no. So it depends on your requirement and scenario. You need to choose a proper approach. Okay. So now let us move on to the super keyword. How many ways we can use a super keyword? Let me create another file. Let's call it as a super.ts. Okay. So to demonstrate this super, I will create another class. First of all, let us understand the difference. Super is available as a method and super is available as just a keyword. Two different flavors. Okay. By using this particular notation, we can invoke the immediate parent class constructor. And by using just a super keyword, we can invoke the immediate parent class method. But in Java, we can also use the super keyword to invoke the parent class variable, to access a parent class variable. But in TypeScript and JavaScript, that is not possible. So that is one limitation which we have in the super keyword. So let me show you some example. Let's create one class, directly call it as a parent. So in the parent class, I will define, this is my parent class. And inside the parent class, I will define a number. Variable is num, and type of this variable is number. I'm assigning the default value, let's say 10. Default value directly I'm assigning. And also I will create one constructor. So I say constructor, and the constructor is default constructor. It doesn't take any parameters. So I'm just trying to print some message. This is, I say, this is parent class constructor. I'm just displaying this. And again, I will write also normal method display. And this method will just display console.log of. And I say this is a display method from parent class itself. Okay, so now this is a class I created. So this class contains one property, one constructor, one method. One property, one constructor, one method. This is a parent class. Now come to the child class. Class child, which is extends from parent. Extends from parent. So now tell me by default, how many attributes, how many properties are in the child class by default? One property. So now again, I'm just creating another variable, just a number equal to 20. Just observe carefully. So now you tell me, in the child class, how many attributes are there? Like how many properties are there? One or two? One or two? How many properties are there in the child class? So the child class, whenever you extends, one property by default come to the child. Again, I'm using the same property. I'm just changing the only value. So this is called overriding. This is also overriding. Property overriding. Property, just like a method overriding, we also have a property overriding. So whatever value we have given in the parent class to the variable, in the child class, I don't like this value. So I'm just changing the value. I'm using the same variable, same data type. I'm changing the value, right? So this is overridden, right? Now, the child class is also having one constructor. Child class is also having one constructor, no parameters, nothing. And here I will say console.log of. This is child class constructor. Sorry, this is parent class, child class constructor. This is child class constructor. And remember one important rule. Whenever you created a constructor in the child class, you must invoke the parent class constructor. Otherwise, it will throw an error. See, compile time error. Constructors for derived class must contain a super call. This is mandatory rule. In the child class constructor, we should not avoid super call. You must call immediately parent class constructor. So before writing any other statements, you need to first invoke the parent class constructor using super call. This is one usage. So to invoke the parent class constructor in the child class, we use this super. Okay, this is the first use case. So what this will do, this super keyword will invoke the parent class constructor, or this will call the parent class constructor. Okay, so you must call this. So you cannot avoid this. So I can say must be called. This is mandatory rule. Okay, fine. So constructor is got created. Now in the child class, along with this property constructor, I will also create a one more method. Let's say show. This is another method. So inside this, I will say console.log of. Console.log of. And I say this is child class show method, or else this is show method from the child class. Okay. Now this show method is a new method which is not there in the parent class. Similarly, I will also create one more method called display. Display, and inside this, I will say console.log of. This is display method from child class. Okay. So this is the implementation of the child class. So if I look at this, in the parent class, we have one variable, one attribute, one property and value. Same thing we have overridden in the child class. The parent class is also having one constructor. Child class is also having constructor. So when I create a child class constructor, you must invoke the parent class constructor. And after that, you can write whatever you want. This is mandatory rule. And in the parent class, we have one method called display. And even child class is also having display method. This is overridden method. So in the parent class, we have a display method. Even in the child class is also we have a display method. So what is this? This is overridden method. Overridden method, display method. Okay. Now just observe. The super keyword will be invoked immediate parent class constructor. So how it is able to invoke? By calling super method. Inside the constructor, it will invoke the first parent class constructor, and after that, the message will be executed. Okay, fine. Now the second is the super also used to invoke the parent class method. Parent class method. So I'll show you an example. So let us create an object of child class, because child class is holding everything. So I'm creating an object of the child class, new child, and I'm creating a variable. You can give any name. I say super demo. I'm giving some variable name called super demo. Okay. Now what is this super demo is a object of child class, or you can say C1, right? So what is C1? C1 is a variable which is holding child class object. Now observe carefully. As soon as you created an object like this, a constructor will be invoked. Now which constructor will be invoked? First, it will go to child class constructor. In the child class constructor, again, we are invoking the parent class constructor. So when I invoke the parent class constructor, it will display the message. This is parent class constructor. Again, it will come back and display this is child class constructor. This is an output you will get. If I just execute this, I've just created only object. Okay. Super.ts. See, just I created an object. By default, constructor is invoked. Now you can see parent class constructor is invoked and child class constructor is also invoked. So basically we are trying to invoke the child class constructor first. And inside the child class constructor, it is trying to invoke the parent class constructor. And after that, whatever we displayed inside the constructor, it is got displayed. Okay, this is clear. The super keyword will be used to invoke the parent class constructor. Very clear. Now you just tell me this. C1 dot show. So where we created the show method actually? In the child class, we have a show method. Do we have show method in the parent class? Obviously, we don't have. Obviously, we don't have. Okay, so let us try to execute and see. This is show method from the child class. So obviously, it is come from the child class itself. So this is from the child class, it is called. So now I will try to do some change. Observe carefully. In the show method, I'm just printing this, right? Now before printing this, I will say console.log of number I'm trying to print. This dot number I'm trying to print. Can we access this number inside these methods? Yes, we can access, right? We can access. So whatever the number I have given, I'm trying to get that number into console.log. So now what is an output you are getting now? Previously it is printed only this one. So now what is an output you will get? 20. So why it is a 20 here? Why it is a 20? Because the latest value is 20. The values got overridden. So we got a 20. Perfectly fine. So this is returning 20. My requirement is when I call the show method, by default, it is printing the value of number, which is overridden value. But my requirement is I want to get the value from the parent class variable. I want to get the value from the parent class variable, which is 10 I want to capture. How it is possible? Okay, so let us see. Console.log of. I'm using super keyword, super dot number. See, it is giving a compile time error. This is giving a compile time error. So why it is giving compile time error? Because super keyword, by using super keyword, we cannot get the value of the parent class variable. This is a limitation. In Java, it will work actually. In Java, it will work. But in TypeScript and JavaScript, it is a limitation. Okay, this is the important point you need to understand. There are some differences in other programming languages and TypeScript and JavaScript. Okay, so I will write here. So parents number, we are extracting actually. We are trying to extract the parent class number. But TypeScript doesn't support super dot number to access parent class properties directly like Java does. But Java, it is possible. Okay, but in TypeScript, it is not possible. So what we understood based on that? Super keyword we can use to invoke the parent class constructor. Super keyword we cannot use to invoke the parent class variable. Okay, so here I will write super cannot be used to invoke the parent class properties. Okay, so remember this is, but in Java, it is possible. This is another important point. So we cannot get the parent class variable. We cannot get the parent class value of the property. Not supported in TS. But the latest value we can capture using this keyword. Normally, the latest value, whatever is overridden, we will able to capture it. Okay. So this is a problem. So far we have seen how to invoke the parent class constructor. And we cannot invoke the parent class variable using super. What else we have? We can invoke the parent class method. We can invoke the parent class method. So let's see how to invoke that. Now you tell me C1 dot display. I'm calling display method. So do we have a display method in the child class? Yes, we have this. This is overridden method. Even in the parent class also, we have a display method. Now you tell me which method will be executed here. Which method will be called? Obviously, the overridden method, the latest method will be called. So when I call this, you can see this is a display method from the child class. So by default, this is called from the child class itself. Child class method is invoked. But my requirement is, instead of invoking the child class method, I want to invoke the parent class display method. I want to invoke the parent class display method. Then how it is possible? So by default, it is trying to invoke the child class method. But again, I want to invoke the parent class method. So what I can do is, in the child class method, we need to do some change. Here we need to invoke the parent class method. To invoke the parent class method, again we use super keyword, super dot display, like this. So here this will invoke parent class method. Obviously, by default, it will call child class method. But once you call child class method, inside this child class method, we are trying to invoke the parent class method. Okay. So now when I execute this, you can see the display method from the parent class is got executed, and the display method from the child class is also got executed. If you just comment the statement, you won't get that one. You will get only one. So the display method from the parent class got executed. So this is a functionality of the super keyword. So we can invoke the parent class constructor. We can invoke the parent class method, but we cannot invoke the parent class variable or parent class property. Understood everyone so far? So this is a usage of super keyword inside along with the inheritance. So super keyword come into picture only when you work with the inheritance concept. If you do not have inheritance, you have only one single class. Is it really useful? Super keyword? No. Super keyword is always referring the parent class. It can be parent class constructor, it can be parent class method. If we have a parent class, then only super will be useful. So it is always related to inheritance concept. Overriding and super, these two are purely related to inheritance concept. If you are not using inheritance feature, there is no use case of super or overriding concept. Okay. So this is all about super keyword. Now, so let us see another concept, access modifier. So far, everything is clear. Please confirm in the chat box. Super keyword always should be in the first line in the same. Yes, exactly. So super keyword, whenever you are trying to invoke the parent class constructor, that should be in the first line. Even when you're trying to invoke the super method, this should be in the first line. I think this no need actually. So let me try this. So I will keep this before. So for method, I think it is no need. Still, it will able to invoke. Yeah. First, it is called child class and then parent class. So at the time of invoking the method, there is no restriction. You can put at the beginning or the end. Okay, their order is not important. But at the time of invoking the constructor, that should be first. After that only, you can write the rest of the code. All right. So now let us discuss about access modifier, small concept, but an automation point of view, it's not much useful. But in entry point of view, it is useful. Access modifiers. In TypeScript, we have only 3 access modifiers. Okay, so let me read the question. With super keyword, we cannot invoke the parent property, but we could invoke the parent method. Yes, that's true. That's what I'm saying. Except the property, we can invoke anything others. Like what are the things we have in the class? Properties, constructor, methods. These are only 3 things. Right? If it is not able to access the property, what are the rest of the things we have? Methods and constructors. So methods and constructors we can easily invoke by using super keyword. Except the property, rest of the things we can invoke by using super keyword. Yes. All right. So now let us see the access modifier. So in TypeScript and JavaScript, we have only 3 access modifiers, guys. Public, protected, private. Public, protected, private. So what is the purpose of using access modifiers? It will decide the scope of the property or scope of the method. Scope of the property or scope of the method. So where and all we can access it. What is the scope? What is the limitation? So that is decided by the access modifier. Okay, so let's see how we can use access modifiers. Let's create another file. Access. In every programming, these concepts are there. Even Java and Python also, we have an access modifiers concept. Access modifiers dot ts. Okay, so to demonstrate these access modifiers, again, I'm trying to use a base class and subclass inheritance concept. Let's create a parent class. I call it as a person. So this is my parent class, person. And in this class, I will create 3 properties. First property name, which is a string. Second property age, which is a number. Third property is SSN, which is also number. So if I look at this, these are normal attributes. Okay, by default, they are the public. By default, they are the public. And intentionally, if you want to write a keyword, you can write. So let's say I'm writing keyword called public. So now this property has become a public property. When I say public property, which is accessible anywhere, which is accessible anywhere in the sense what? Tomorrow, if I create multiple modules or multiple packages, something like that, we can access this everywhere. Throughout the project, everywhere we can access. Everywhere you can access this variable, this property. This is called public. There is no limitation for this. There is no limited scope. Everywhere we can access. Now, a age I will become protected. Protected means this particular attribute we can access within the class, also in the child class. We can access this property within the class, or in the child class. If I create another child class for the same person class, this property we are able to access. So this is the behavior of the Protractor. I'll show you an example, then you will understand better. So Protractor is nothing but what? Accessible within the class and its subclasses. In all subclasses, it is able to access. Now, SSN. Let's make SSN as a private. Private in the sense, this particular attribute or property we can access only within the class. Given not, we cannot access this even in the subclass. Even though if I create a subclass or child class, we cannot access this. Purely belongs to a specific class. So private properties accessible only within the class. So these are the only three access modifiers we have. Public means everywhere we can access, anywhere we can access. Protected means within the class and within the child class also we can access. Private means only within the class we can access. Even in the child class also we cannot access. Okay, now these are the three properties we created. Now let us create another constructor also. I'll show you the access. Okay, by default, public is an access modifier. If I don't specify anything, by default is a public. So constructor, and I'm taking the three arguments to store the data in the three properties. First one is a name, which is a string. Second one is a age, which is a number. Third one is SSN. This is also a number. So three arguments I'm taking inside the constructor. Now I'm assigning them. So this dot name equal to name. This dot age equal to age. This dot SSN equal to SSN. So now the constructor is done. So what this constructor will do, this constructor will take three arguments and assign the data into three variables or three properties. In addition, I will also create one method which will display the data of the properties. So I can say display info. Display info. And in this, I will print console.log of name, this dot name, right? So similarly, I will print this dot age and this dot SSN. Okay, three values I'm able to print perfectly fine. Or else I can also write a message. This is the name. And this is age. And this is SSN. Okay. So this is one single class, contains three properties, one constructor, one method. This is our parent class. Now let's create a child class. Person I created, right? So let's say class employee. My class name is employee, which is extends from the person class. So according to the inheritance concept, whatever is belongs to the parent class, they are also belongs to the child class. So we already know that. So this is our child class. Okay, now understand this. In the child class, additionally, I will create one more attribute here also. Let's say employee ID I'm taking. This is another additional attribute which is belongs to only child class. Employee ID, which is again number, and I'll make this variable as again private. And again, child class also should have a constructor. So I'm adding one constructor. And again, this constructor should invoke the parent class constructor, right? So I'm using a super here. So we need to take all the parameters now. So name we have to take, which is a string. Age we have to take, which is a number. SSN we have to take, which is also number. In addition, employee ID also we need to take. Employee ID also we need to take. So I can say employee ID, which is also number. So totally how many parameters we are taking? 4 parameters. And among these 4, 3 parameters we need to pass to the parent class. So inside the super, I will pass name, age, SSN. So these are the three parameters we will pass to the parent class constructor. Okay, fine. One attribute and one constructor. And similarly, and what about this employee ID? That we need to assign to the employee ID, which is a local variable. So this dot employee ID equal to employee ID. Now constructor is got created. Apart from this, I will also create a one method which will display the employee details. Okay, let's create a method show employee details. And inside this, I'm just trying to print the all employee details. Console.log of this dot name. Can we access name? What is the name attribute here? Name is a public. Public means what? Everywhere we can access. So inside the class we can access. Even in the subclass also we can access. Everywhere we can access. So I'm able to access name here. Because it's a public, this is accessible. This is a public attribute. So we are able to accessible. No issues. Now console.log of this dot age. Can we access age here? Age. Age is what? Is a protected. Protected means what? Within the class we can access. Even the subclass also we can access. Even the child class also we can access. So age we will able to access here. So this is able to access because it's a protected, also accessible. Because in the child class we will able to access. Perfect. Now console.log of this dot SSN. See, it is giving an error. So why SSN is giving an error? SSN is a private property. Private property means what? Only within the class we can access. So here we're able to print. Okay, so within the class we're able to access. But now we are trying to access SSN outside of the class. So which is not accepted. So private is able to accessible only within the class. We cannot access anywhere else. So that is the reason it is giving an error. So property SSN is a private and only accessible within the class person. Within the class person. So this is a problem. This will throw an error. Why? Because it's a private property. This is a private property. So we are not able to access this SSN. Okay, now another thing. Console.log of this dot employee ID. Can we access? Employee ID. Carefully check it. Employee ID. Can we access employee ID? Employee ID. Where we have defined this employee ID? In the child class. We don't have that in the parent class. And again, it is a private. So even though it is a private, we are able to access within the class, right? There is no restriction. So within the class, we can access private property. But outside of the class, we cannot access. It will throw an error. SSN is outside of the class. So we are not able to access. So even though it is a private, we are able to access it. So it won't throw an error. So even though it is a private, still we can access since it is declared inside the same class. Inside the same class. Okay, so this is a how we can access modifiers. Okay, fine. So this is our parent class. This is our child class which we created. Now let us go and create an object for the child class. So how to create an object for the child class? Using new employee. And reference variable I'm creating, let's say let emp. Right? So new employee. So whenever you create an object for employee class, immediately the constructor will be invoked. So what are the parameters we need to pass? 4 parameters we need to pass. So let us pass them. Let's say John. And what's the second parameter? Second parameter should be age. Let's say 30. And third parameter is some SSN, some number. SSN. And the next parameter will be SSN, what we have given, number or string? SSN, we have given the number. So let's give only number. Some number, okay? Should not put the double quotes. Next one, employee ID, let's say 101. So when I execute this, as soon as you created an object, access modifiers is not printed anything. So we are passing some data to the employee object. So in employee object, constructor is got executed, but we are not printing anything here. So it is not giving any output. Okay, so now I will try to call a method emp dot display info. Display info. So for which class this is belongs to? Display info. Display info is belongs to parent class. When I call the display info, it will print the values of all the attributes, name, age, and SSN. So this is possible. So I'm executing. So we got a information, name, age, and SSN. Again, if you want to get employee ID also, then we need to call show employee details. So emp dot show employee details. So now when I execute this, this will also print employee details. So this is how we can normally execute. Okay. So this is all about access modifiers. Access modifiers. Again, I'll show you some more example. emp dot I can say console dot log of emp dot name. Can we access name from the emp object? Emp object. Can we access emp dot name? Here, even though we don't have a name here, the name comes from what? Person class. So in the person class, we have a name that is again public. So everywhere we can access, right? So we will get the emp dot name. So that is correct. So we will get the emp name is called John. So this is accessible. Accessible. Same thing. Console dot emp dot age. Can we access age? Age. So age is accessible only within the class and also in the subclass. Also in the subclass or child class. But we are trying to access this age, which is protected and only accessible within the class, person, and its subclasses. But we are accessing outside of both the classes. So this is also not accessible here. Here it is not accessible. But here it is accessible because it's a subclass. We are trying to access age in the subclass. But once you come out from the even subclass, we cannot accessible here. Similarly, console.log of emp.ssn. Can we access it? SSN. SSN is purely private property for the first class. So obviously that also not possible. So not accessible. Okay. So you need to understand like this. So these are all about access modifier. Only 3 access modifiers. Public means everywhere we can access. Protected means within the class. In subclass we can access. Private means only within the class we can access. And another thing is these access modifiers are applicable for methods also. Okay, methods also we can define the access modifiers. For example, here I have a display info. I want to make it as a public. So you can define the public access modifiers. Nothing wrong in this. Or if you want to create any method as a private, you can create that is a private. But again, we cannot access anywhere else. That is related to only that particular class. So most of the times don't make methods as a private. You can make variables or properties as a private, protected, public, but don't make methods as a public, methods as a private, because the method is the only thing which will perform the transaction or operation or some calculation, some logic is included in that. So that will we have to access in outside of the class. So that is not recommended. So always methods should be public only. Even though if you don't specify public, by default, they are the public. Okay, these are the access modifiers normally we use to restrict the accessibility. In the development point of view, which is helpful, but for testing point of view or automation point of view, we never use this access modifier. By default, everything we will make it as a public. Okay, only interview perspective, which is helpful. But development point of view, because the developer, they want to make some variables as secure privacy, they want to apply. In those cases, they will use something called private and protector. Otherwise, no use. So for automation point of view, there is no use of access modifiers. Only for interview perspective, you can just remember them. Okay. So these are all about access modifiers concept. So do one round of practice, inheritance, how to use super keyword, how to use access modifiers. I will also give the document notes related to all the concepts and go through and understand. Okay, this much is enough, more than enough to understand this. All right. So we'll stop here for today's class, and tomorrow we will continue with the another concept.